taking on Genesis in the first round of the Evo Gaming Tavern Hero in New York, and I'm here, Alec, with pizza.
How's it going, guys? What do you think of the event so far?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, finally getting started here. You see, RayC is actually on the Shaman here. Pretty like. I mean, we're jumping into the match, but the Warrior already got him down to 5 health. Do you think there's a chance he can even stabilize here?
At this point, it depends on what hero power he has at this point. Fire Blast, as opposed to Steady Shot, a little bit more underwhelming. Like, he might be able to stabilize, but with 5 turns, it's a lot. Some of the cards he might need, maybe like Flame Wreath Faceless. This is Drake's probably going to put in a lot of work, but it's going to be really tough. If he draws a Mortal Strike or a way to deal with this taunt, it might get complicated for Ray.
And it looks like that actually is going to be it.
Yeah.
And Mortal is going to take him down, and Genesis is going to take the first game over Ray. And Ray probably one of the favorites going into this tournament. It's pretty impressive for Genesis to take that first game.
Yeah, but there's a lot of talent here, and Tavern Heroes are really a good way for a local player to start and like break through and get into the competitive scene. So I wouldn't be surprised if some of these more known players get taken down a few times today.
Let's make sure we can actually.
We're just waiting for the next match to start here. They queue up their classes.
Yeah, I mean, after winning that first game as Genesis, what do you think you're going to go towards after taking the first game with your Warrior? You got that matchup where you're pretty happy about winning against the Shaman there.
Yeah, the Shaman decks are really like sort of tuned to beat the Pirate Warrior decks that we've seen in the
Hmm.
last couple of weeks on ladder. So it's really favorable for him to get that win. Going forward, he really wants to target the Shaman deck depending on what his lineup is.
There's a mulligan screen.
It is.
On OBS.
There we go.
On OBS, there's a mulligan screen.
It's already. Oh,
It says mulligan. No, in
where?
mulligan.
Oh,
Seems.
what?
I forget it.
Forget. It's fine. It's not even the screen.
All right, well, we are going to have RayC. He's going to be on the Druid here, and J Druid actually has a pretty decent matchup against Reno Warlock.
Yeah, being able to generate a lot of big threats and draw cards in the process of doing so is just like it puts you in a very favorable position. No matter how much life you gain with Reno Log, you still have that cap of 30 life. So if you just generate a bunch of 5/10s and a bunch of 7/7s, like what could they possibly do?
Yeah, it really comes down to there's a lot of turns, where you have Bran and Bran into Aya or something like that, Bran into J Behemoth, something like that down the road, and all of a sudden your board just
Yeah,
completely flips.
inevitability is the key word here for the Jade Druid deck.
Yeah, you can even do some fun things with like Auctioneer at the end of the game, and
Yeah,
like keep reproducing golems if
yeah.
it does get that stage.
Especially with Jade Idol. Like Jade
Yeah.
Idol is one of the bigger cards impacting Druid versus the control matchups, and especially like maintaining like again that word of inevitability. Like you just keep maintaining idols for the rest of the game. Like what could possibly go wrong with a bunch of 10/10s?
And I was gonna say RayC has a slow start, but we just ran into the innervate here, so is gonna be able to accelerate something on this turn. But for a little bit, Warlock does have the ability to actually kind of rush you down sometimes if you're playing Druid and get too slow a start.
Yeah, depending on how Genesis wants to play this, he could take a little bit more of an aggressive route. But as we see going forward, the taunts and now the innovate to generate those taunts might put a wrench in that plan.
Yeah, and you also summon another golem, something you just need to keep track of throughout the game. It's gonna be 2/2, but it has Spirit coming up the next turn, make it 2/3 and a 3/3. So starting to get those ramps in.
Yeah, you really see Ray trying to balance out his curve. That's the main thing you want to look at with your innovates, and I really like the way that he's going forward here. Like he gets to cast the Jade Spirit on 4, Nourish on 5, and War on 7. Like what could possibly happen?
Not too bad, right? Now, as the arena player, I mean, I think I talked a little bit is like you have the opportunity to sort of rush them down sometimes, but in this position, what do you think Genesis is looking for here? Like a big Kazakus swing, something along those lines?
I think Kazakus is the key part, but it might be past that point for him. Um, because what are you going to do with the remaining mana? He's already down his Mistress of Mixtures. Like he really needs to find cards like Twisting Nether He has some of the AoE spells like Hellfire we see and Abyssal Enforcer, but what he needs is an area of effect spell that doesn't punish him in the process because like he needs to keep his life total in check now that he doesn't have Reno. Once he does find Reno, it gets a little bit more flexible,
Yeah.
but it's a bit complicated for Genesis at the moment.
You see right here, go ahead and draw with the Nourish. Just pick up Aya. So lots of Jade in the hand right now. It's gonna be pretty interesting going a few turns forward.
Yeah, Aya is one of the bigger ones. Like, it's going to be interesting to see how he plays it because versus the Reno Lock deck, like I said, the AoE spells are his main way of getting back into it, and Aya is a great way of like protecting against that strategy. Like he might even go so far as to hold it for the later turns.
And even though we saw the board flip a little bit on that turn, as you said here, like Aya
Yeah,
comes down,
I
puts down
can
a 5-3 and 4-4, and just so resilient a lot of times against Reno because of surviving after twisting nether or
very
something like
much
that.
so. We see she's a bit vulnerable here, because we see the clean trade with the refreshment vendor, going into the twisting nether turns. But you could also just like make the argument that he wants to develop this very efficient threat like immediately.
But how do you deal with Sylvanas here? I mean, is there any way to efficiently deal with Sylvanas right here? What do you think?
Efficiently, probably not, since you have just like these big threats. But I think like between having so many big threats that like what's the problem if you just generate if you generate a 5/10 and he steals like the 5/5. It's the worst of the flip, obviously, since like you'd much rather have him steal the 4/3, but
And Genesis with the Siphon Soul in hand, though, so able to actually clean up that Ancient rather effectively. And we see Ray, though, he's playing double Ancient War, so, packing in both of those giant taunts.
yeah, yeah, double ancient ward probably a tip to like there not being as much or maybe in favor of there being so many pirates because it like ancient war just looks so good in both those matchups like versus the control decks. It's just a big threat. It doesn't do much. It just hits for a bunch and stops you from getting hit.
And this is the moment where Genesis really does want those big clears because, as we saw, Brand coming down there with the Jade Spirit, 6/6 and a 7/7. Everyone from here out is going to be a lot to deal with.
Yeah, there are not that many area effect spells that will deal with any of the minions going further since Hellfire's lost its value, Abyssal Enforcer as well as lost its value. We do see that he has Shadow Flame in hand though, so maybe stealing one of the bigger
Ooh.
golems, which we see exactly right there, will enable the Shadow Flame to get a little bit more value. I think this really comes down to the Aya turn. I would have liked to see him hold it in favor of the Jade Behemoth,
Hmm.
as I said before. Like it's so resilient versus the AoE that once you get to the later stages of the game, once you get past like those Hellfires, those Abyssal Enforcers, and you start to get into the Twisting Nether turns, Aya is amazing protection because he often swings for lethal and
That was a
Nether's.
pretty big flip right there, though, throughout that turn. Now, Ray's kind of almost on the backpedal on here. Is like, how do we, again, we've had big flip turns with Brand, but how do we flip the board again in Ray's favor?
Flipping it back in his favor, it probably involves we want to start with the Wrath, I think, to maximize. We see that he's going to start with the Wrath now to maximize its information. It probably involves a swipe and a bunch of like awkward trades. The 6/6 into the 7/7 is like your face into the 5/5, perhaps. That leaves up only the MC tech. But afterwards, if you have like maybe Jade Behemoth or an efficient draw off this Wrath,
Hmm.
you might be able to put it back in. But it's looking like an awkward board on both sides. And now that Genesis has several combo pieces that were discounted by this Emperor, like this might be a way for him to pull it back out.
Yeah, he got Leroy off of it and the PO, so just really just looking for that Faceless Manipulator to
Yeah.
do that giant burst damage at the end there. So it's like Ray's gonna actually go for this option, keep the 6/1 alive, and just keep the 7/7 on Genesis board alive as well.
Yeah, if he doesn't have that twisting nether, this is also just like a way to kill him. But this is very vulnerable to Reno and Shadow Flame, which we have not seen yet. So it's been a fairly interesting game, but J Druid generally is. What do you think of J Druid versus oh, you see the game?
Nah, just gonna Shamble here again. I mean, pretty strong. Abyssal Enforcer actually getting a lot of value there.
Yep.
Gonna take him down to 15. He's in that burst range, where Ray needs to be a little careful about his health total and really look for some answers here.
Yeah, this is looking pretty grim for right now, which is weird because it was so strong from the early game.
Is there a way out of this one? Is there a way to keep all these guys? You know, get to get rid of basically everything. Ray doesn't really know that, but
With the auctioneer, I think it is between the wild growth and the jade idol. Like you have a
Mhm.
lot of options. I think he may forego it for the swipe, however, because you just want to like leave up the if you just leave up the 6/6, you're not explicitly dead on board, and we see just that here. It'll be an interesting draw. That Feral Rage, if he should survive the turn, will be very very helpful for him. A good question is, what do you think of this hero power of a wild growth theoretically?
I mean, I like the wild growth. You know, you get like a ton of draws here, right? So you get what 3 additional draws with the
Yeah,
wild growth.
definitely.
So that's pretty good being to shuffle to the deck. And this point in the match, you thinking you're in a decent spot. Unfortunately for Ray, Genesis does have Leroy and PO in hand. So I mean, that's just gonna be it right here.
Yeah.
So out to a 2-0 lead. Very impressive start. I think by Genesis, not a player I'm super familiar with, but he's been playing pretty well here.
Same so far. Like he hasn't made any major mistakes. He's just like playing his decks and knows how to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I had some decent turns with that MC Tech stealing the 7/7. That was a big point in the match. Also, you know, that Shambler turn right there. It would say it's able to set up a big board, knew that they had the burst in hand, and then went ahead and finished
Yeah,
it off.
being able to put yourself in that position is a very important part of Hearthstone in general. It's good to see that. It's good to see that some of the newer players like are showing that they can keep up.
So Genesis is just going to be left with his Druid here. Now, if it is a Druid, this is a deck that can definitely get beat down in like sort of a reverse sweep situation.
Definitely, it's very vulnerable. I think the key part here is that
Well, Ray did
oh,
draw
he
patches.
did draw patches.
So not the best start.
The key part is the vulnerability of Druid in the mirror. A lot of the times in the
And
Druid mirror.
look at this hand though.
Oh,
Yeah, we got Innervate. We have the with the ramp as well. We even have something like the
this is pretty much the hand that you want to see versus the Shaman deck, and we see that he's going to innervate
just
and
get
coin
Fender
out
out
the
right
Fangel.
now.
Yeah. Versus the Shaman deck, this is like when you have the innervate in the coin play, it gives you a lot of flexibility,
Mhm.
and just coining and innervating out a big threat that can sweep out these totems, sweep out Totem Golem, is a really good way of building a board and taking command of things.
And we're gonna see Genesis probably here get immediate value off the Fendril. Has Living Roots, can also idle as well.
Yeah.
So getting both of those choose one's pretty great.
He doesn't have a way to deal with the Fandrel immediately for several turns. He might even have to go so far as to just like
Lava
lava burst it
burst it.
straight up. Yeah,
It's just like a lot of value you're giving up, but at the
ton of
same
value.
time, what are you going to do in this situation?
You see just that.
Yeah.
Very unfortunate for Ray. But that's true. That's the power level of Druid. The wild growth, the innervates. That's what you need.
And then the ramp's coming out too.
Yep.
The Jades are started. The ramp's coming. So Genesis up to a very strong start.
Showing commanding control of this board.
Ray's gonna need some good flips. He's gonna need something like Lightning Storm or Maelstrom Portal or something along those lines.
Yes, Maelstrom Portal would be good. I think the problem with Maelstrom Portal is that as we get into the later stages of the game, he's going to have to roll hero power too. So it'll be interesting to see both, A, how he uses his weapon, because he can just as easily Jade Claws, and how he uses his hero power.
So we're gonna see Genesis here actually use the Feral Rage and take out the Golem here and actually make another 3/3. So he's really in a position where he wants to control the board here, keep making Golems.
Yeah, it's I think this is a good position. I like that A idle because he has several more off the Fandrel trigger. Just like Fandrel gone but not forgotten for Genesis here.
Oh, he picks up an Innervate. So going to be able to nourish 4 cards and maybe even Innervate something out afterwards.
Probably, but like going forward, this is looking pretty grim as well.
Yeah, these Golems are starting to pile up.
Yep.
Once we get into the Behemoth or something along those lines, that's when it's like, okay, Ray, what can you do in that situation?
Doesn't look like much, unfortunately.
Feral Spirit is going to help here a little bit. You can also take out the 4/4 here, with the charge and the weapon. So starting to get some flip on the board.
A little bit. The problem is that the looming threat of just like Jades in general. Like he gets to cycle cards. Drake was a really good draw for Genesis here. This is looking very unfortunate for.
What do you like here?
I think
Got to grab Innervate Hero Power or something along those lines if you want. You can just take out one of Feral Spirits, or you could go ahead and innovate out the J Spirit.
Yeah, this is an interesting turn because you don't really like if you forego the Wrath here, you're kind of giving up the 2/1. But is the 2/1 really all that important in the grand scheme of things? I think you just generate 7 power.
It's pretty
as you
good
see
making a
here.
5/5 right
Yeah,
here.
making a 5/5 very often never goes wrong.
So he does have the option to take Life Tap or Fire Blast. Goes ahead and takes the Fire Blast there. Now this is the thing though, he's already at 15, so Drew does have like some burst potential as well. You know, swipes, things like that. So
Yeah, it's gonna be rough for Ray. I think Fire Blast was one of the better picks. Generally, like Life Tap is so important, but we see he's already down 15 life. It's not gonna go well for that.
there's patches. Not really the turn you
Patches,
want to see it
yeah.
happen, but you know it's here.
Patch is doing his best to take charge of this board.
It's pretty good right there. Genesis is gonna be able to use the Raptor Cycle, and you know just continue to make golems. You know, even see the
Yeah.
big threats like the Ancient War's gonna come out later. This is looking super rough for Ray.
Yeah, I don't think there's a way to get him back in this game. And you see,
That's
he's
it.
just gonna give it up.
Is that 3-0?
That should be.
Jeez.
so.
So Genesis with a 3-0 victory over RayC. Just very surprising start to this tournament.
Yeah, Ray's been like it's very unfortunate draws. Like drawing patches can never be all that good for you. But I think both players like operated both their decks very well with the resources available to them. So it's good. Like again, it's good to see that a newer player can hold up against one of the more known players in the scene.
Yeah, and it just goes to show. I mean, Genesis, especially in that Druid game right there, I think pretty heads up play along the way. Ray didn't find any answers. Had a Lava Burst like on turn 3
Yeah.
against a Findrel. And it's something you're really looking forward to, you know, having that burst or in the mid game where you can flip a turn not on turn 3 when you have to use that.
Yeah, being able to like know when to shift to those aggressive strategies. We saw it Genesis just like
Yeah, it's that point in the match where you know a bit of control range deck has to flip.
knowing how you're gonna swing it is like very like, particularly the turn 1. Like most people would like wait it. Free damage on turn 2 for you if you keep the Fandral on 1.
And it looks like we're gonna have a short little break here, and then we'll be back with another match here at NYC's Tavern Hero.